I think it's time you faced the truth. Dad, you don't belong here anymore. Pack your bags and get out. And see them. My son-in-law's voice cracked through the quiet dining room like glass shattering. Across the table, my daughter folded her arms, her eyes colder than I ever thought possible. She didn't argue. She didn't defend me. She simply looked at me the way you look at something that has already been discarded. The roast chicken I had carefully prepared hours before sat untouched, its steam fading into the silence. My hands trembled on the edge of the table. I had buried my wife, Linda, only a week ago. 7 days. 7 days of walking through empty rooms that still carried her scent. 7 days of waiting for comfort from the only child we had raised, with every ounce of love we possessed. And this was what I received. You can't keep living in this big house, my daughter added, her tone sharp, rehearsed. It's too much for you. You need to move somewhere smaller. Somewhere appropriate for your age. It is loved in the way appropriate. The word lodged in my chest like a splinter. I was 68, not helpless. I had paid every mortgage bill, painted every wall, carried every box of groceries into this home for 30 years. It wasn't too much for me. It was my life, carved out of decades of sweat and sacrifice. I looked at my daughter, the same girl whose scraped knees I once bandaged, whose graduation I once funded, whose tears I once wiped away during heartbreaks. She would not meet my eyes. She twisted her wedding band with a nervous rhythm. Like my pain was an inconvenience, she wanted to end quickly. Where do you expect me to go? My voice shook, not from weakness, but from disbelief. My son-in-law leaned forward, his smile without kindness. There are plenty of retirement homes in town. Nice places. They'll take care of you. But this house, it's too valuable to be wasted on one old man rattling around inside it. They vie all ness. The words stabbed deeper than any knife. My wife's laughter still echoed in these walls. Our wedding photo still hung above the fireplace. Every corner carried memories. Yet here I was, being told I was nothing more than a squatter in the very life I had built. I wanted to shout, to demand respect. But my throat tightened. All I managed was silence, and in that silence, I saw it clearly. They weren't asking me. They were deciding for me. At that moment, something inside me broke and hardened. The morning of Linda's funeral smelled like salt and wet leaves. Our town sits on the New England coast, where fog drifts across porches. I woke before the sun and pressed my palm to her pillow. It was cool. At the church, the bell rang slow and heavy. The pastor spoke about kindness you could touch. I stared at the wooden cross and counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. Do not fall apart. Not yet. Emma sat beside me, shoulders stiff. Her phone lay face down in her purse. Tyler stood at the end of the pew, jaw tight, eyes on the stained glass. When the choir sang Amazing Grace, my chest burned. Linda used to hum that song while washing blueberries. She would tap my nose with the towel and laugh. I wanted to laugh and cry. I did neither. At the graveside, a cold wind came off the water. The men from the funeral home lowered the casket. The ropes creaked. I placed a white lily on the polished wood. Emma pressed her lips together. Mom hated lilies, she said. They made her sneeze. I forgot, I said. Linda loved peonies and lilacs. The florist had been out of peonies. The lilacs had browned. People hugged me. Some cried into my coat. Others told me to call. I said I would. I knew I would not. Back at the house, the front door sighed the way it always did. The living room held its breath. Dishes covered the dining table. Foil trays, lasagna, casseroles with names taped to lids. Someone left a chocolate cake with a plastic knife. I opened the fridge and stood there with the cold light on my face until the fan steadied me. Emma followed me into the kitchen. "Dad," she said, "you should stay with me and Tyler for a few nights." Her voice was careful. Tyler leaned against the door frame. "We have the space," he said. "It's safer. I will be fine," I said. "This is my home." No. They left after a while. The street went quiet. I washed the cups. I wiped the counter twice. Linda hated crumbs. The clock over the stove ticked in a clean rhythm. I draped my jacket on the back of her chair and let it stay. That first night I could not sleep. I walked the rooms. The hallway smelled like old pine and lemon oil. I ran my hand along the banister she polished every Saturday. In the bedroom, I opened her dresser. The top drawer held her scarves. Red, navy, a yellow one with tiny anchors. I lifted it to my face. Lavender and something bright. My throat closed. On the second day, I burned the onions. The smoke alarm went off. I waved at it with a towel until it fell silent. Then I ate toast over the sink. Linda used to cut toast into neat halves and stack them like roofs. "Houses for birds," she would say. She left a plate by the window for the wrens. The plate was still there. Emma called that night. "How are you?" she asked. "I'm here," I said. "Do you need anything?" A pause. "Dad, you shouldn't be alone." I told her I was not alone. I had the house. The house had me. On the third day, I found Linda's list on the fridge. Blue pen, careful letters, milk, zucchini, stamps, call the dentist, buy new shoelaces. At the bottom, she drew a tiny heart next to my name. I pressed my thumb on the ink until it smudged. Then I rewrote the list exactly as it was. I did not need milk. I bought it anyway. People say grief comes like waves. In a house, the tide follows the rooms you shared. It pools in the laundry room where you once held a warm sweater. It runs under the door of the study where the desk smells like cedar. It rises in the doorway where she last slept. I learned where to stand so I could breathe. Some nights the wind from the harbor climbed the hill and rattled our windows. I sat at the kitchen table with my hands around a warm mug. I listened to the trash truck on Thursday mornings and the mail sliding through the slot. These sounds became my clock. Emma visited on Sundays. She brought lemons and thyme. She put them on the counter and looked at me as if checking a chart. "Eat," she said. "Rest." She pointed at the mail. "You should open these." I said I would. She hugged me at the door. Her hugs were lighter than they used to be. Once, as she left, I watched her walk down the path that Linda planted with hostas. Emma paused at the gate and wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist. She thought I did not see. I saw. I said nothing. By the end of that first week, the house whispered one truth whenever the wind slid along the siding. "Hold your ground. Hold it. Hold it." And I did. It was a Sunday evening when Emma and Tyler came for dinner. I had roasted chicken again, this time with garlic potatoes and green beans. I set the table with the dishes Linda loved. The white porcelain with tiny blue rims. The candles flickered as the daylight slid away. I wanted the house to feel warm, like it always had when she was alive. They arrived with a bottle of wine and a smile that did not reach their eyes. Emma kissed my cheek. Tyler shook my hand too firmly, like he was bracing himself. We sat down. I carved the chicken. The sound of the knife on the board filled the silence. "Dad," Emma began. She folded her napkin, unfolded it again. "There's something important we need to talk about." "Friend," I placed a piece of chicken on her plate. "Eat first," I said. "Then we'll talk." "Friends." She exchanged a glance with Tyler. He cleared his throat. "Actually, sir, it can't wait." He gestured around the dining room. "This house is too much for you. It's big. It's expensive. It's not practical. Fresh. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. The smell of roasted garlic turned sour. I looked at Emma, searching for a smile, a shake of her head. Some sign she didn't agree. But she stared at her plate. Her fingers twisted her wedding band again and again. "This house is mine," I said. My voice was calm but tight. "Your mother and I built our lives here." That he was not from the fore. Tyler leaned back in his chair like he owned it. "That's exactly the point. Linda is gone. You don't need all this space. Emma and I need a bigger place. Our apartment is cramped. We've been thinking. This house could be the answer." That was the he. The room went still. I could hear the clock tick in the hallway. I could hear my own heart pressing against my ribs. Emma finally looked up. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "Dad, Tyler's right. It's too much for you now. We're just trying to be practical. There's not or leave, practical." I repeated. The word tasted bitter. 30 years of mortgage payments, repairs, sleepless nights, every nail I hammered into these walls. And now my own daughter called it too much. "Where would you have me go?" I asked. "An assisted living community. They'll cook for you, clean for you. You'll be safer, and we'll handle everything here. It is built to." I gripped my fork so hard it shook. "This is my home. It is paired of the tumph. Don't make this harder than it has to be," Emma said softly, though her words struck harder than any shout. Tyler leaned forward, elbows on the table. His smile was thin. "Cruel. You need to face it. Sir, pack your bags and move on. This place belongs to the future. To us. It is built to." My breath caught. I waited for Emma to protest, to tell him he had gone too far. But she nodded. "It's time, Dad." The air grew heavy. The food on my plate blurred. I saw Linda's chair empty at the end of the table. And for the first time since her death, I felt the full weight of being alone. I set my fork down. "I see," I whispered. 2 words, and my heart cracked. I did not sleep after that dinner. I walked the hallway and touched the frames on the wall. Emma in a paper crown at 6. Emma with a science fair ribbon. Emma in a prom dress that Linda hemmed at the kitchen table. Every picture was a door. The years stepped through and filled the house. When Emma was 9, she had pneumonia in February. Snow pressed against the windows. The clinic sent us to a hospital in Boston. I scraped ice from the windshield while Linda packed a blanket and a stuffed fox. In the ER, a nurse used a calm voice and quick hands. Emma cried when the IV slid under her skin. Linda held her forehead and hummed. I stood at the foot of the bed and stayed steady. The bill was more than we could bear, so we bore it anyway. At 13, she needed braces. She sulked, then practiced smiling in the mirror at night. We cut cable that year. We ate beans and rice on Tuesdays. Linda sold a ring she had not worn since college. She kissed my cheek and said her hand felt lighter. I promised I would buy the ring back for our 40th. I never got that far. At 16, Emma begged for a car. Not new. Just 4 doors and heat. I found a used Civic from a teacher who was moving west. We changed the oil in the driveway together. Her hands smelled like metal for a week. On her first solo drive, she brought Linda a coffee with too much sugar. College came like a tide. She chose a private school after a scholarship covered half. I ran the numbers on a yellow pad. I looked at the mortgage. I looked at our savings. Linda put a hand over mine and said, "We can do this." I took overtime at the freight yard. I fixed small engines in summer. I delivered newspapers before dawn. When tuition posted each term, I paid it before sunrise and saved the receipt. Senior year, she called me from the quad and sobbed. She had failed a final and feared the scholarship would be cut. I drove 3 hours and met her under bare trees. I said the word failure out loud until it felt small. She retook the class and passed. After graduation, she moved to the city. The rent made my stomach knot. I co-signed because her credit was thin as paper. I taught her to track spending, with boxes for each day in a notebook. Linda sewed curtains from an old tablecloth with blue stripes. Emma texted a photo of the sunlight on the fabric and wrote, "Thank you." The first man she loved broke her heart in October. She called me from a bench by the river and said she could not breathe. "Count the masts." I told her, "Name each one. Put your palm on your chest and feel how it rises. You are still here." She came home that weekend and slept on our couch under Linda's knit blanket. In the morning, Linda made pancakes shaped like initials. Emma ate until she laughed again. When she met Tyler, he seemed careful and polite. He brought tulips and asked about fishing. He shook my hand and said he would care for her. I believed him because I wanted to grow old with a son-in-law who would carry the ladder when the gutters clogged. Their wedding was small and windy. The photographer gripped her camera with both hands. Linda wore a blue dress that made her eyes bright. Emma cried when I walked her down the aisle. She whispered, "Thank you," as if I had handed her the sky. I paid the bill from a savings account that kept its papers in order. Linda slid the receipts into a folder and wrote wedding on the tab. The down payment on their first place came next. They found a condo near the river with a tiny balcony and a strip of crabgrass out front. Tyler could not qualify without help. Emma called on a Tuesday with a voice that swung between hope and fear. I transferred money the next morning. At the closing, the lawyer's pen scratched across paper. "We will pay you back," she said. I told her to breathe and build a life. I made other quiet gifts. A laptop when her screen cracked before finals. Tires in winter. A dentist bill after a crown fell out. Half the tuition for a coding boot camp. When Tyler wanted to switch jobs. I did not keep score out loud. I kept every record in a drawer because numbers are a language I trust. Still, I told myself none of it was a debt. It was a rope thrown from a boat to someone I loved. Linda used to joke that I loved a ledger more than a vacation. She would tap the calculator and say, "Write down the things you cannot bear to lose." I wrote down names. Hers. Emma's. That was my wealth. That was my house. The night after the dinner, I pulled out the boxes where Linda filed our life. Paper and dust breathed their dry smell. I read the lines that told the story. Beneath the story. A hospital bill from the winter of pneumonia. Receipts from the orthodontist. A check copy for the Civic with a smudge of oil. Tuition confirmations across 4 long years. The catering invoice from the windy wedding. Bank transfers for the condo. Quiet gifts with quiet proof. I ran my fingers over each page and felt how love keeps a ledger in quiet ink. As I stacked the papers, ache shifted to clarity. I had given and given, because love is a long verb. I did not ask for a return, but love is not surrender. Love is not letting yourself be erased. I closed the last box and sat in Linda's chair. The cushion kept the memory of her shape. Out the window, the harbor flickered with late boats. Their lights moved slow and patient. I matched my breathing to them. I could not change the past. I could change what came next. The next morning I woke with a heaviness that pressed against my chest. The house felt smaller, darker, as if the betrayal at that table had seeped into the walls. I brewed coffee the way Linda liked it. 2 scoops. A pinch of cinnamon. The taste was flat without her. But the ritual steadied me. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of bills. The folders. The lined notebooks. Where I had written every major expense across the years. For a moment I thought of giving in. Selling the house. Retreating quietly. Letting them take what they wanted. It would have been easier. I was tired. After all, tired of fighting grief, tired of carrying a silence that filled every room. But then I remembered Linda's voice. She used to tell me that love meant holding your ground. Don't confuse kindness with weakness. She'd say, the world will test you. And Sardrum the cave. I walked into the study and pulled the curtains wide. Sunlight cut across the desk where my old calculator sat. Dust floated in the beams. I opened the filing cabinet and pulled out every folder with Emma's name on it. I lined them on the desk in order. Hospital, braces, college, car, wedding, condo. Each page proof of sacrifice, of trust, of promises made and forgotten. I took out a yellow pad. My handwriting was slow but steady. On the first line I wrote, "They think I am finished." Underneath I wrote, I listed strengths the way I used to analyze accounts at the freight company. Knowledge of banking, records of every loan, contacts at 2 local banks, a reputation for precision. I listed weaknesses too. Grief, age, isolation. Seeing them on paper shrank them to size. The clock ticked. The house creaked. I thought of Emma's eyes when she nodded at Tyler's words. The way she agreed to exile me. That memory no longer hollowed me out. It hardened me. At noon, I put on my navy blazer. The one Linda pressed for interviews years ago. I looked in the mirror. My hair was whiter. My shoulders bent. But my eyes still knew how to calculate. I whispered, I am not done. We Brago. I drove to town. Past the harbor. Past the bakery, where Linda once bought lemon bars on Fridays. I parked in front of the library and sat for a while. Watching people carry books in and out. The world kept moving. I could move too. I opened my notebook again and began a plan. Step 1. Confirm financial exposure. Step 2. Gather information quietly. Step 3. Decide when to reveal the truth. I wrote at the bottom of the page. They underestimated me. Then I closed the notebook with a sharp sound that echoed in the small space of the car. That evening, I ate at the kitchen table again. But the silence felt different. Not crushing. Not endless. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Full of tension. Full of power waiting to be released. I looked at Linda's chair and said softly, they will not take this from me. See the quadam. For the first time in weeks. I believed it. I went to Harbor Trust just after it opened. The air inside smelled like paper and coffee. Sunlight slid along the floor. A young teller smiled. I asked for the branch manager. When Paul Redding came out, he hugged me. We had worked together for years. He knew Linda. He knew how we kept every receipt. You look thin, he said. How are you holding up? I need to understand my exposure on a few accounts, I guaranteed. In 19, his face shifted from kind to careful. He led me to his office and closed the door. I placed 2 documents on his desk. The mortgage I had co-signed when Emma and Tyler bought their condo. The repair line we opened the same year. I want to know where things stand, I said. Paul opened his laptop. He typed. Scrolled. Paused. His mouth tightened. Tell me, I said. The mortgage is 60 days past due, he said. Last full payment in early spring. Then partials. Then nothing. And did not the card. I felt the chair hard under me. And the line? They drew it to the limit in late summer, he said. 41,000 out of 41. No payments for 2 months. And, he turned the screen toward me. I knew those columns. Dates. Amounts. Fees that grow when people fall behind. I saw my name on the guarantor line. My signature linked their choices to my credit. What about other debt? I asked. I can only see what is here, he said. But Seaboard flagged them for high utilization. Late fees on 2 cards. Total revolving around 19,000. He hesitated. Tyler guaranteed an equipment lease with North Star Renovations. The lessor issued a notice of default, balance near 82,000. If it goes to judgment, guarantors get attention. Hey, I counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. Do not panic. Print me what you can. Hey, he printed histories, notices, and the original terms. He added a brief note on guarantor rights. The paper was warm. If you need a letter for counsel, I can draft one, he said. I will, I said. And if there are new draws or changes, call me. Hey, you have it, he said. I sat in the car and let the wheel cool my palms. I made a new page in my notebook. Mortgage. 2 months late. HELOC. At limit. Cards, heavy. Lease. Default. When you put fear into columns, it becomes smaller. From the bank, I walked to the library. The research room was quiet. I used the public terminal and looked up North Star on the state registry. Late annual reports. A contractor complaint for incomplete work. A mechanic's lien from a lumber yard. I printed the pages and slid them into a folder. At noon, I met an attorney. Carmen Doyle. She is precise and plain-spoken. We had crossed paths when I handled accounts for her firm. I laid the stack on her desk. She read with her finger under each line. Here is what we will do, she said. Send a demand for disclosure under guarantor rights. Request payment history and notices. Notify the lessor that you will not guarantee extensions. Place fraud alerts on your credit. Ask the bank to require your consent for any further draws. Way. Relief came like air after a held breath. Based on these ratios, they cannot carry this debt without help, she said. They may seek you out again. Do not promise anything on the phone. If you assist, we secure it with clear terms. A predisict, I signed the engagement letter and paid a retainer. I left with a plan that fit in one folder. On the way home, I stopped at Seaboard. Luis Mendoza met me in the lobby. He used to run risk at a bank where I balanced proofs. He guided me to a small room. They applied yesterday for a consolidation loan, he said. Debt to income at 58%. With the lease hanging over them, we cannot touch it. He lowered his voice. If anyone asks you to co-sign, do not do it. And he enter. I will not, I said. If there are credit pulls tied to my name, can you alert me? I will when I can, he said. Back at the house, I made tea and cleared the dining table. I spread the pages like a map. I opened my old laptop and built a simple sheet. Columns for date, event, balance, risk. I entered the figures with care. Each line was a step away from helplessness. I thought of Emma as a girl, counting masts on the river to steady herself. I was counting too. Not masts, not waves, just numbers, honest and cold. They told me where I stood. I wrote the last line of the day in my notebook. Protect the house. Protect what we built. I turned off the lamp and sat in the dark, listening to the wind in the ash tree. Tomorrow I would begin the next part of the plan. After dinner, I sat with the phone and called the credit bureaus. One by one. I placed alerts and requested mailed confirmations. I also called our insurer and asked about umbrella coverage limits. Not to make a claim, but to know the edges of my protection. The agent explained exclusions in slow, careful sentences. I wrote them down. Knowing the limits steadied me more than blind hope. I drafted a short letter to Emma and Tyler. It was not angry. It was clear. I asked for a full accounting of their debts, due dates, and any applications pending. I asked that they not apply for new credit without notifying me. Given my guarantees, I kept a copy in the folder and dated it. I did not send it yet. Timing matters. 2 mornings later, the phone rang while I was trimming the hedge by the driveway. The sun had just climbed above the maples. I wiped my hands on my jeans and answered. Emma's voice trembled at first, then steadied with practiced calm. Dad, we need to talk about something important. Tyler and I are behind on a few payments. It's just temporary. If you could help with 15,000, we could catch up. So, I listened to the hum on the line. I could hear traffic in the background. A horn. The muffled slam of a car door. She was calling from somewhere she hoped I couldn't picture. No, I said. Silence. 10 full seconds of silence. Long enough for me to count my pulse. Then she whispered. What? I said no. I won't be lending you money. It's not Hilpirus. Her voice rose sharp. Dad, this isn't for luxuries. We could lose the condo. Tyler's company is restructuring. We just need breathing room. It's not Hilpirus. You've had breathing room for years. I said. My tone was calm, but my hands shook. I gripped the hedge clippers until the metal dug into my palms. I gave you tuition. I gave you a down payment. I covered a wedding you wanted more than you could afford. That was 200,000 over decades. You called it love. Now you call it not enough. We laughed. Her breath caught. This isn't like you. You've always helped us. We laughed. That was then. We laughed. I walked to the porch and sat down. The wood was warm from the sun. A robin hopped in the yard. I pressed my hand against my knee to steady the tremor. She tried again, voice breaking. Dad, please. We have 2 weeks before foreclosure starts. The bank said. I know what the bank said. My voice cut sharper than I intended. I pictured Linda's careful records. Carmen's legal draft. The balances printed in black ink. I know exactly where you stand, and I won't be the net you expect to fall into. All the proud. You'd let us lose everything? You already lost something, I said. You lost my trust when you told me to pack my bags. You lost the home in me before the bank ever came knocking, said Nod Khan. She sobbed then, muffled, as if she had pressed her palm over her mouth. I heard Tyler in the background asking, what did he say? She didn't answer him. She only said, I can't believe this, and hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I set the phone on the porch rail and watched the robin disappear into the hedge. That night she texted again. Dad, we can work this out. Please don't punish us for what Tyler said. We're family. I read it twice, then placed the phone face down. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I poured a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and let the silence expand. It pressed against me, heavy but not unbearable. For the first time since Linda's funeral, the silence did not feel like loneliness. It felt like strength. I wrote in my notebook, refusal. Line drawn. No turning back. 2 days passed before I heard from them again. But I did not need a phone call to know what was happening. News travels in small towns. Sometimes by whispers. Sometimes by the simple evidence of what you can see with your own eyes. I parked across from Tyler's job site one afternoon. An open lot where steel beams rose like skeletons against the sky. He was pacing near the half-built frame, phone pressed tight to his ear, his shoulders tight as drawn rope. The foreman gestured toward a stack of unfinished materials. Shaking his head, Tyler threw his hands up. Desperate motions a man makes when the world is sliding out from under him. Even from a distance, I recognized the posture of failure. I had seen it in clients when I worked the freight accounts. Men who borrowed too much, stretched too far, and prayed the next job would save them. Tyler was in that place now. Back home, I checked the credit monitoring alerts. 7 new inquiries in 48 hours. Denials. Everyone. Their score was bleeding points with each attempt. I knew what that meant. Doors slamming shut in sequence, leaving only panic behind. That evening, while I trimmed Linda's roses, I heard a car crawl past. Emma was in the passenger seat, her face pale, turned toward the window. She didn't look at me standing by the garden. Tyler gripped the wheel, jaw set, eyes fixed ahead. They drove on without slowing. Later, at the market, I overheard Rebecca, one of Emma's old friends, speaking softly near the produce aisle. She called me, Rebecca said to another woman. Begged for help with the mortgage. I wanted to, but I can't. They're too far under. I placed a loaf of bread in my cart and walked past without turning my head. The words followed me down the aisle anyway. On Friday night, I stood at my kitchen window and saw the glow of their apartment across town. One dim light in a cramped complex. A shadow moved inside, restless, pacing. I imagined Emma on the phone, voice hoarse from pleading, and Tyler at the table, head in his hands, bottles scattered. It should have broken me. A father watching his daughter unravel. But it didn't. It hurt. Yes, in that deep hollow where love and betrayal meet. Yet beneath the ache was a clarity like clean glass. They were not victims of chance. They were living the harvest of their choices. I sat at my desk and opened the folder again. Dates, balances, missed payments. I ran the numbers twice, then underlined one sentence. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. The roses Linda planted swayed in the night air. Their scent drifted through the open window, sharp and sweet. I whispered to her photograph on the desk. They thought I was weak. They will learn otherwise. I closed the folder, turned off the lamp, and let the darkness settle. They came at dusk, when the sky over the harbor turned the color of bruised fruit, and the gulls cried like warnings. The doorbell rang once, then again. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the foyer. My heart beat slow and steady. Emma stood on the porch with her coat unbuttoned. Tyler hovered behind her, shoulders squared, eyes uncertain. She tried to smile. It collapsed at the edges. "Dad," she said, "can we come in?" I stepped aside. They walked to the living room and stopped when they saw Linda's chair. I gestured to the couch. "Sit," I said. They obeyed. For a moment, there was only the tick of the clock. Emma folded her hands and unfolded them. Tyler stared at a spot on the rug as if numbers were written there. "Say what you came to say." I told them. Emma took a breath that shivered. "We are in trouble," she said. "The bank sent a letter. We are 3 months behind. The line is at the limit. Tyler lost hours at work. We need help, just to get current. We will pay you back." Tyler leaned forward. "We are not asking for a gift," he said. "We will sign anything. Interest, collateral, whatever you think is fair." "How much?" I asked. 40,000, Tyler said. His voice tried to be steady. It failed. Emma flinched. "Dad, we will pay every month. We will meet with someone who can help us plan. We will make it right." I sat in my chair and let the quiet do the work. "How did you get here?" I asked. Emma pressed her nails into her palms. "We spent more than we had. We thought the next job would be bigger. We thought we could fix it before you noticed." She glanced at Tyler. He looked away. "And the other credit?" I asked. "The cards, the lease, the applications last week. I know you know," she said. "We were chasing time." Tyler raised his eyes. "I thought I could build a better business," he said. "I believed I could outwork the math. I was wrong. I should have told you sooner." I should have told Emma sooner too. What do you want from me besides money? I asked. Emma blinked as if the question surprised her. We want a chance to start again, she said. A way out that does not destroy everything. Her voice cracked. I studied their faces. I thought of the night at my table. Of the words, pack your bags. I thought of the ledger of years. Of numbers that tell the truth, no matter whose throat aches. You told me I did not belong here. I said, in this house, in this life, why should I believe that now I belong enough to save you? Emma closed her eyes. Tears slid and held to her lashes before falling. I was cruel, she said. I was scared and I let fear dress itself as practicality. I wanted what was easy. I forgot who you have been my entire life. Tyler swallowed. I was arrogant. He said. I thought I knew more than the man who built the roof over our heads. I thought I could cut you out and come away clean. He put his face in his hands. I am sorry. The apology hung there. I did not cross it. Not yet. What will change if I write a check? I asked. Emma wiped her face on her sleeve. Everything, she said at first, then shook her head. No. Some things will not change unless we change them. We will sell what we do not need. We will move if we have to. We will meet with a counselor, and with a financial counselor too. We will stop hiding. We will stop using your love as a spare key every time we lock ourselves out of our own house. Tyler looked up. I will take any work that pays and does not lie. I will show you every statement. You can tell me no and I will not argue. I will be grateful for honest limits. I stood and touched the frame on the mantel where Linda's photo sat. I spoke without turning. Before I consider help, you need to understand something. I said, I will not be the weak old man you imagined. If I step in, I will step in as a steward of what your mother and I built. That means order. That means respect. That means the truth even when it stings. Yes, Emma whispered. We understand. Tyler said, you will give me a complete list of debts and due dates by tomorrow evening. I said, you will bring statements and letters and every notice. You will also write a note to this neighborhood and to our family that corrects what you allowed to be said about me. You do not need to bleed for the crowd. You do need to tell the truth. Emma nodded. I will do it tonight. Tyler hesitated, then nodded too. Yes. I went to my desk and opened the top drawer. Inside was a checkbook and a pen. I closed the drawer again. Not yet. I said, come back tomorrow with the papers. Then we will talk about what help looks like. Emma stood. She reached for me and then pulled her hand back. Dad, she said, thank you for letting us in. I walked them to the door. The porch light threw a soft circle onto the steps. Tyler held the rail. As they reached the sidewalk, Emma turned. I will bring everything, she said. I promise. Promises. I said. Bring proof. Emma sank back into the couch cushion and stared at her hands. Her fingers were bare except for the band I had paid to resize years ago. The gold caught the lamplight and looked tired. She spoke again. Softer now. I have thought about Mom every night, she said. I keep hearing her ask if I washed the fruit before I ate it. I hear her laugh when the smoke alarm chirped and she waved a towel at it. I do not know how to be good without her telling me how. You do. I said, you knew before. You forgot. Knowing and remembering are not the same thing. Tyler nodded slowly. I forgot too. I forgot that money does not bend when you plead. I forgot that promises without plans are only noise. He looked around the room. This house, he said, like someone who has been hurt and is listening at the door. It is the life we built. It hears. It will hear if you repair what you broke. We sat in a quiet that did not bite. It was the quiet of people choosing whether to tell the last hard truth. Emma lifted her head. I was the one who nodded that night, she said. I could have stopped it. I did not. I wanted the easy road. I wanted your house more than I wanted your heart. I am ashamed of that. I heard the words and let them land. They did not erase the past. They did not need to. They made a start. The next evening, the bell rang again. I had been waiting. I set aside my ledger, rose from the chair, and opened the door. Emma stood with a folder clutched to her chest. Tyler carried a box of statements and envelopes, their edges frayed from panic. They stepped inside quietly, as if the house itself might scold them. We sat in the living room. I took my place in Linda's chair. They sank onto the couch like schoolchildren called to confess. Emma placed the folder on the coffee table. Tyler set down the box beside it. These are the records, Emma whispered. Every bill, every notice, every late fee. We didn't hide anything this time. I reached for the folder, opened it, and began to leaf through. Mortgage arrears. Notices stamped in red. Credit cards heavy with penalties. The lease contract with the equipment company. Marked default. I set each one in order, page after page, until the truth sat between us like a mountain. Do you know what these pages say? I asked. They say we failed, Emma murmured. They say more than that, I said. They tell me you spent years beyond your means, borrowing tomorrow to pay for yesterday, and then expected me to erase the balance when it came due. They're only's not. Tyler's jaw tightened. We thought we could handle it. I believed one big contract would fix everything. I didn't mean to drag Emma down with me. They're only's not. You didn't drag her, I said. She walked beside you. She signed with you. You both played the game. They're only's not. Emma's face crumpled. Dad. We were desperate. Very change, yes, I said, leaning forward. And desperation writes sloppy math. But I am not desperate. I have something you forgot. I had clarity. Very change. I rose and walked to my desk. From the top drawer I drew out my own folder, thick with printouts from the bank, the registry, the credit bureau. I set it down beside theirs. This, I said, tapping the cover, is your story as I uncovered it. The mortgage, the home equity line you never mentioned, the business lease, the credit inquiries, the denials, every move you made. I tracked. You thought I would be blind. I saw everything. Tyler's face blanched. You how? I worked in banking for 35 years. I know the signs of collapse. I still have friends who remember what my judgment is worth. Do you think the refusals you've received in the past 2 weeks are accidents? No. They were decisions informed by truth. The truth you refused to face. Emma shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. Dad, you stopped us. It in around place the muck self-plange. I protected myself. And yes, I stopped you from burying us all in debt. Do you know what would have happened if I hadn't? Foreclosure, judgments, garnishments, and my name dragged with yours. I would not allow it. It in around place the muck self-plange. Tyler leaned forward, hands clenched. You ruined us. It in around place the muck self-plange. No, I said evenly. You ruined yourselves. I simply removed the illusion that rescue was guaranteed. It in around place the muck self-plange. Silence filled the room, thick and raw. Emma covered her face with her hands. Tyler stared at the carpet. I reached into my folder and pulled out a timeline I had drafted. Dates, debts, missed payments. The precise moment when collapse became inevitable. I laid it across the table. This is not just a record. It is proof. Proof that you calculated wrong. Proof that cruelty at the dinner table has consequences. You thought grief made me weak. It made me sharper. And never the sang. Emma lowered her hands. Her eyes met mine. Red-rimmed, but clear. You planned this, she said. Yes, I replied. From the night you told me to leave my own house. I decided then that I would not be erased. Every refusal, every door closed to you, every denial you received, it was me. Holding up the mirror you refused to face. No Thrain, Tyler let out a bitter laugh. Hollow and cracking. You played God. No Thrain, no. I said. I played father. A father who finally stopped confusing rescue with love. No Thrain, the words settled like stones. Emma wept openly now. Shoulders shaking, Tyler sat rigid. His pride collapsing in silence. I leaned back in my chair. The weight of years steady in my chest. Now you understand exactly where you stand. There is no pretending left. Only truth. And from here, only terms. Quoting. I let the room breathe. Emma wiped her face and stared at the timeline as if it might change. Tyler sat stiff with his hands clasped. The clock in the hall ticked in even strokes. I felt calm. I felt older than my years and steadier than I had in months. Here is what happens next. I said, I will consider helping you. I will not rescue the life that put you here. I will protect what your mother and I built. Emma nodded without speaking. Tyler lifted his eyes with the look of a man at the edge of a cliff. You will write a public apology. I said, it will be simple and true. You will tell our family and this neighborhood that asking me to leave my own home was cruel. You will say you are sorry. You will say I am staying. You do not need to add drama. You only need to correct the story. Emma swallowed. I can do that tonight. You will also show me respect in this house. I said. No more talk about boxes or retirement homes. No more deciding for me. I will decide where I live. I will die here when my time comes. And I will not answer to fear. Yes, she whispered. Tyler said yes as well, almost under his breath. Next, you will submit to order. If I provide funds, they will be guarded. You will give me a complete budget. You will meet with a counselor for your marriage. You will meet with a credit counselor who will teach you how to live inside a number that is real. You will send me a report on the last day of every month. You will include every statement and every receipt. No surprises. If you hide anything, the help ends. Tyler stared at the table. I agree. I walked to the desk and took out a single sheet that I had drafted after speaking with Carmen. I laid it in front of them. Read it, I said. Emma read out loud with a careful voice. Temporary assistance from father to daughter and son-in-law. Amount to be determined. Secured by a lien on the condo. Funds held in an escrow account at Harbor Trust. Disbursements only to the mortgage servicer and the equipment lessor. Mandatory counseling. Mandatory budget. Monthly reporting. Right to inspect bank records. Immediate termination upon deceit or waste. She lifted her eyes. This feels strict. It is not strict. I said, it is safe. Strict would be no. Tyler cleared his throat. How much are you offering? I held his gaze. 25,000. Not 40. Enough to stop the fall. Not enough to pretend the past did not happen. 10,000 to the mortgage arrears. 10,000 to the lease to stop the legal clock. 5,000 in reserve for closing costs, if you sell the condo or need to move to a smaller place. No cash in your hands. The escrow will send every dollar to the people you owe. He flinched. 25 will not cover everything. It is not meant to. I said, you will sell what you do not need. You will pick up extra work. You will call creditors and ask for hardship plans. You will learn how to live on what you earn. A small life can be clean and strong. Emma breathed in and out. We can do that, she said. We can cut back. We can sell the television and the extra laptop. We can move if we must. Tyler nodded once. I will take weekend shifts. I will paint houses. I will carry lumber. I will do what it takes. He hesitated. I understand your terms. There is more. I said. You will not speak to me in a way that turns your fear into my fault. You will not use your mother as a tool to press me. You will remember who she was. She told the truth even when it hurt. If you want to honor her, you will do the same. Emma covered her mouth with her hand. I understand. This house is mine. I said, it stays mine. You will treat it as a place you enter with respect. If you wish to visit, you will call first. If I say yes, you will come to help. Not to take. We will, Emma said. Her eyes shone with a steady kind of grief. I opened the drawer and took out my checkbook. I wrote the amount and left the payee line blank. I set the check on the table, face down. You will have this after 3 things, I said. First, the apology posted and sent. Second, the folder with every debt and every due date. Third, signed documents to secure the funds. We will go to the bank together. We will put the money where it belongs. If any part of this fails, there is no deal. Tyler leaned forward, hungry to agree. Yes, all of it. We will do it all. Emma reached for the check with a reflex she could not stop. Her fingers brushed the corner. She pulled her hand back as if it burned. I am afraid, she said quietly. Not of you. Of what we have done. Of how close we came to losing more than money. Fear can be a teacher. I said. Let it teach you this time. Tyler spoke without his usual force. I treated your love like income, he said. I am ashamed. I will earn your trust. I do not ask for quick forgiveness. I ask for a hard road and a chance. I looked at him for a long time. Pride fights to live in a man. Humility looks like a slow bow. I saw the bow. I saw how much of it came from pain and how much from choice. I decided to let that be enough for one night. Tomorrow, I said, bring the signed apology. Bring your papers. We will meet at Harbor Trust at 10. We will set the escrow and the lien. Then we will send the first payments. And after that, you will begin the work that only you can do. Emma stood. She wiped her eyes and squared her shoulders. Thank you, Dad. Tyler stood as well. Thank you, sir. I walked them to the door. The porch light made a halo on the steps. The sea air was damp and clean. One more rule, I said, turning toward them. You will not say that I saved you. Say instead that I invested in your change. The first can be wasted. The second must be honored. They nodded together. Good night, I said. They went down the path slowly, as if each stone asked a question of their feet. At the gate, Emma looked back and lifted her hand. I lifted mine. The night settled around the house like a quilt that had known every season. I returned to the living room and sat with the face-down check in front of me. I turned Linda's photo toward me and spoke to her in the quiet. I asked for order. I said, I set terms. I kept the house. I hope I kept my heart. The photo did not answer. The house did. It held me in a steady silence that felt like a new beginning. The next morning, the sky was clear. A brittle blue that made every edge sharp. I met them at Harbor Trust at 10. Just as promised. Emma carried a typed page folded twice. Tyler held a manila envelope full of papers. Their faces were pale, worn from a night without sleep. We sat across from Paul in his office. He read the apology letter first. The words were simple, direct, without ornaments. We wronged my father by asking him to leave his own home. We spoke with cruelty instead of compassion. We are sorry. and we will not repeat such disrespect. It was signed in both their names. Paul nodded. That will do. If you can today. He drew up the escrow agreement, the lien on the condo, the disbursement orders. Emma signed. Tyler signed. I signed last. My pen steady. 25,000 left my account. But not my hands. It flowed into channels with walls around it. Safe and directed. For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight on my chest ease. Outside, Emma hugged me. Her shoulders shook. I will make this right, she said. Tyler extended his hand. His grip was firm, but not defiant. Thank you for giving us a chance. I nodded and turned toward my car. In the days that followed, the change began. Emma called once a week, her voice softer, stripped of assumption. She told me when they sold the extra television, when they canceled the gym membership, when Tyler picked up shifts hauling lumber at a warehouse. Each call was short, factual, respectful. The neighborhood received their apology in the monthly bulletin. One line read, "We are grateful to my father for his patience, and his home remains his own." I saw it in print and felt the house around me exhale. Yet pride does not die easily. Tyler avoided my eyes when we met at church. Emma's smile carried shadows. I knew their shame still burned, and I did not feed it. I simply let them sit with it. Consequences are a better teacher than scolding. At night I sat in the living room. The silence, no longer heavy but deliberate. I read old letters Linda wrote me. I watered the roses she planted. I walked the harbor path and breathed the salt air. Each act reminded me that life was still mine to live. One evening, Emma stopped by alone. She brought a basket of lemons and bread. She sat at the kitchen table and looked around the house. "It still feels like home," she said. "It is home," I answered. "It always will be." She reached for my hand. "I thought I lost you." You almost did," I said. "But you are here now. That matters." And may batters the 10, tears welled. But she smiled through them. "I will not forget this. Any will say it and great from the war." When she left, the house was quiet again. But it did not feel empty. It felt restored. As if the walls themselves knew the truth had been spoken. I returned to my chair, opened my notebook, and wrote, "Justice served. House kept. Love tested. Love not destroyed." The days grew longer, the air warmer, and the garden began to bloom with the colors Linda loved. Each morning I opened the curtains in the dining room and let the sunlight wash across the table. I brewed my coffee, set one cup for myself, and sometimes out of habit set another where she once sat. Then I would catch myself and smile at the small foolishness of love that lingers. The house no longer felt like a tomb. It felt like a keeper of memory, steady and patient. The silence was not a punishment anymore. It was a companion, one that listened when I spoke softly to the past. I often found myself in the living room, standing before the photograph of Linda in her blue dress from Emma's wedding. I told her what had happened, what I had done, what lines I had drawn. I kept the house. I would whisper. I held the ground we built together. They tried to push me out, but they learned who I am, who we are. End of Lee. On a quiet Sunday evening, I sat with the windows open, listening to the harbor bells drift in on the wind. Emma called. She told me that Tyler had taken steady work at the warehouse, that they were making their payments, that counseling was hard but honest. Her voice carried fatigue, but also something I hadn't heard in a long time: humility. "Dad," she said, "I think Mom would be proud of you. I know I am. Even if it hurts. It's the down there." I closed my eyes, let the words settle, and answered, "I only did what was right." For her. For us. It's the down there. After the call, I walked through the house slowly. Room by room. In the kitchen, the list Linda had written still hung on the fridge. A smudge where I once pressed my thumb against her name. In the study, the ledgers were stacked neatly. Each page a reminder that love can be measured in sacrifice. But also in boundaries. In the bedroom, her scarf still carried the faint trace of lavender. I lifted it to my face and breathed. The night settled deep. I sat once more in my chair and looked out at the roses swaying in the dark. I thought of all that had been nearly lost: trust, dignity, the roof over my head, and how it had been reclaimed. Justice had not come with shouting or fists. It had come with patience, with clarity, with truth. I lifted Linda's photograph and spoke into the quiet. They wanted me gone, but I am still here. And as long as I breathe, this house will be ours. This, the words did not echo. They rested in the walls, in the wood, in the very bones of the home. And for the first time since she left, I felt not just grief but peace. Sharp and clean. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the silence wrap me like a quilt stitched from every year we had shared.